let's get to the news.
Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. North and South American, all the ships and equipment at sea. Let's go to France.
All right, new game on Kickstarter, Paperback Adventures from Tim Fowers and Sky Larson. We're big fans of Tim Fowers here at Game Brain, so go and check that out on Kickstarter, Paperback Adventures. So this is a solo deck building roguelike word game. So I think what you want to do is is that clear to everybody? So
yeah, that makes sense.
Think Slay the Spire, if you've played that. Ben Slay the Spire meets
I've heard of it.
His other, he already has a game Paperback,
right?
That is a very clever kind of deck building word game, and so that's what this is. You actually play a character. I think they've already revealed 2 of the characters. A third would be a stretch goal. Again, kind of like Slay the Spire, you can play as a different character that will have different powers. And so far, it's already getting pretty good reviews. Rado's done a run through and has initial thoughts, so definitely go and check out Paperback Adventures on Kickstarter. All right, Ben, you've got a piece of news here.
I actually have a piece of news. I believe it was last week that this came out, but there's still going to be time for it. There is a Kickstarter out for Railways of Sweden and Railways of Australia, and if anyone has heard, over the episodes. Heard me talk about, although I now talk about 18xx so annoyingly and so much, but before 18xx, I would annoyingly talk a lot about Railways of the World, which is probably, I think, my number 2 game behind Concordia, sort of the number 2 sort of system behind, although maybe 18xx might be number 2 at this point, but I know, but Railways of the World is so fun. I actually like it more than Age of Steam. But they're like first cousins. You can't go wrong with either one of them, to be honest. I think Age of Steam is super fun too, but Railways of the World is a little bit more my speed. And so there's already several maps for Railways of the World. There, about a year or 2 ago, there was Railways of Portugal came out, which is actually designed by Vital Lacerda, which people love Vital Lacerda, including me. But that's a really fun map too. I'm just pointing that out because I feel like that's an overlooked Vital Lacerda option. But that being said, so Railways of Sweden and Australia, they're coming out, and Australia is going to be one of the bigger maps, sort of on par with Railways of the Eastern U.S. or maybe I think the Western U.S. is a big one too. And it's going to introduce something. It's going to introduce ideas of towns. And more importantly, it means that you can play the game while speaking in a fake Australian accent, which I may or may not be successfully doing right now.
That's what I was saying. We need more people in our board gaming group that do bad accents while playing board games. That's exactly what we need. I'm seeing here also there's a Rail Barons of the World solo mode from David Turksey.
David Turksey. So for people who are really into solo modes, that would probably be a really cool option. And there's also, I didn't back it when I had the chance, and then they're offering it again this time on this Kickstarter, and I backed it, and I don't know if I'll ever use it, but I've realized I've become a Railways of the World collector, so I backed the giant transcontinental map of the United States, where what they do is they put Railways of Eastern U.S. and Railways of Western U.S. together and make a mega map. And there's actual special rules that you can play the game across these 2 maps. And so they've released this giant neoprene map where you don't have to mash together 2 boards. And I said, you know what? I'm going to back it. Why not? Let's just do it.
You could just mount it on your wall.
I might. So I'm a little concerned that
you have a Railways problem.
Yes. But yeah, so I backed it. I'm so excited for it. I'm so excited.
You've become a train game collector.
I really am. Yeah. I'm just, what can I say?
Own it. In other news, Vampire the Masquerade Rivals expandable card game has released. This is one that I have my eye on because this is a kind of limited. I played a lot of Game of Thrones LCG from Fantasy Flight, and that community has blown up the game is no longer being supported by Fantasy Flight, and most of that community has moved on to this, Vampire Rivals, which feels a little bit like the successor to the old Vampire: The Eternal Struggle card game that Richard Garfield designed, over 20 years ago, where it's a game that's also designed to be played. You can play it one-on-one the way you do Magic, but then they also have a larger game where you can play with multiple people. So that game has released. I'm going to pick up the core set. No verdict yet. I'm hoping to kind of drag in Paul and David and Matt, who were, occasional players of Game of Thrones with me. So if you liked Netrunner, you liked Game of Thrones LCG, Vampire Rivals might be a good thing to check out, and you can kind of just do it with the core set. Right now, it's got a bunch of kind of like pre-built decks where you can play one of the, vampire clans, where you play a Malkavian deck or a Ventrue deck. So you don't even have to get to the deck building yet, but that's what's going to happen as the game evolves.
I've never played any of those LCG type games, any of those.
No Magic for you?
Never played Magic. Okay. The closest was a game, was it called Mistborn or something that was, I think it was a Plaid Hat game. I played that once. But I've never played any. I don't know if I would like them or not. I can't tell.
These games always appeal to me, like in the sense that there are games in which you kind of play or engage with the games in different ways. Magic the Gathering, these type of games have always appealed to me because I can spend a lot of time putting decks together. Mm-hmm. Like the idea of like conceiving of a concept of a deck and then like pursuing it by putting all of these, cards together in order to do a thing. Like that is as interesting or more interesting than the actual playing of the game
fun.
Itself. And then other people kind of just want a good deck to be handed to them, and they're like much better drivers of the deck. Like David is an excellent card player of all card games. And so if you can give him a good deck, he will often do a lot with it. And I'm just finding like my pleasures are often in putting stuff together in the first place.
Yeah.
And that doesn't require any other person to play with either. I can kind of like play the game in my head when putting together decks. And so this is one of those.
I think I would like that aspect. I this sounds so ridiculous, but the closest I feel like I've really come to that has been playing Baseball Highlights 2045, which I don't
okay.
Which is not, I know it's totally not the same. I don't know. Did you ever play that game?
No, I don't even know what that is.
Oh, it's actually really good. I really, really, and I'm speaking as someone who doesn't really like baseball that much. But it's a card game essentially, and it's deck building, and it's basically you go head to head with someone, and you have your little team of baseball players, and you play sort of this fake game of baseball. I'm not even gonna get into how that works, but at the end of your little game, you can then recruit new baseball players, and you play a series of games that leads up to a World Series. So after each one of these mini games, your team is getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And the way the games go sort of have this tug of war to them, where you're very much concerned about what are they playing, what do they have? I know they have this power. When are they going to use it? Yada yada yada. I'm going to play my outfielder, my really good guy, my home run dude right now. So I think there's like elements from what it sounds like what you're describing.
Putting a team together. Yeah,
I'll bring that game around. I don't know if you'd like it or not. Some people love it. A lot of people love it, are very passionate about it, and then some people just totally.
So this is an analog game. This is not a computer game.
It's an analog game. There's an app that's really bad, but
okay.
But yeah, I'll bring it around next time. Maybe we'll give it a shot.
All right, Prospero Hall, subdivision of Funko Games, has a new game based upon the movie The Goonies. The Goonies Never Say Die has been announced. Looks like the game is kind of like ready to go for a June 2021 release. This is going to be sold like a lot of Prospero Hall stuff through Target. It's already, the pre-orders for the game are all completely sold out already. It comes with like 8 different minis, and I guess you are one of the 4 little kid Goonies from the movie that you're playing, which is cool, but it also means those are all 4 boys, so no female kind of like
Cyndi Lauper. Could they like work Cyndi Lauper into it a little bit?
Well, if you remember, there are girls in the movie the Goonies,
It's true.
Ben, but like, were they actually Goonies? Like, this was one of the kind of conversations I would say that I've seen on Facebook pages. In any case, they have, in addition to announcing this game, they have immediately now announced an expansion, Goonies Under the Goondocks, which is going to feature the more characters that are like the older kids from the Goonies, including Josh Brolin and the Martha Plimpton character. So hopefully there will be some female playable characters from that, but it's also like those are the older kids that come in, if you remember.
Yeah.
Goonies is one of those movies that a lot of people really love and remember from their childhood. I always remember it as being not that good, especially because like I wanted like a D&D adventure movie, and I thought it was pretty lame by those standards.
Yeah, I actually saw it. I didn't really see it in my childhood because as a kid, I was scared of movies a lot, like of things being scary.
Okay.
And I thought that Goonies was going to be scary because I think there was some skull imagery. I forget, but I was scared of Goonies. I mean, I was in first grade when it came out, but then I think I saw it in high school, and I enjoyed it. But I actually don't have a strong memory of it. I have like little things here or there, and it was like I also watched it. It was like a movie of the week on TV, so it wasn't like that. But that being said, there is a huge amount of love and nostalgia for Goonies.
Yeah.
And I'm actually surprised that it has not been rebooted by Hollywood in our era of nostalgia reboots. I'm actually shocked that we have not seen a reboot and a franchise and a extended universe. And I'm not even trying to be funny. I'm really surprised we don't see that.
Prosper Hall tends to make these games that are perfect for when I go back to Texas and play games with my extended family, like my relatives, and I can, bring over my cousins. Like that seems to be like games like Jaws tend to fall into the, has enough to offer, but that's challenging, but is still playable with people that are not, Game Brain podcast listeners. Another thing that was teased this week was an Elder Scrolls game from Chip Theory Games. Chip Theory, we will know from Cloudspire and Too Many Bones. Matt is a huge Too Many Bones fan. I still have never played it.
I played it once, and it's so not my kind of game. In general, I'm just not a campaign game legacy person. I just have realized that's just something about that's just not what I look for. But I kind of played it begrudgingly with a friend, and I had a really fun time. I thought it was really, really fun. I didn't feel compelled to go back to it when it was done. But while I was playing it, I was like, this game is a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. I think for a lot of people, those, like, if that's what you want, they do it really well. And that Matt, I think, has identified Chip Theory as like, oh, they really have his number. The stuff they put out is perfect for him. And so Elder Scrolls, kind of well-known computer game that I've played. Moving to board games, be interesting to see how that works out. All right, and finally, they release a list of nominees for the 2021 Spiel des Jahres.
Yeah,
I'm always conflicted about whether we should care about these awards at all, but generally we kind of care about the Kennerspiel award here, which is supposed to be the more sophisticated game,
a little heavier. I mean, I feel like, so I got involved in the board game hobby in around 2014. That's when I first played Settlers of Catan and then went down the rabbit hole, right? And so that's around when I started paying attention to the Spiel des Jahres and the Kenner Spiel. And I feel like, back then, which was not really that long ago, 6 years ago, 6 or 7 years ago at this point, but I feel like we had nominees, we had games that were really notable games, and also really did address game players beyond family gamers. Like you had Concordia, which was around 2012 or 13, which lost to Istanbul, which is crazy, but Istanbul is still like a really fun game. You had Orleans that was nominated. You just had like of course, I'm blanking on everything else that's ever been nominated. Even Wingspan, which was actually 2 years ago. Just games that had a lot of, I feel like, a lot of meat on their bones, even though they're not as heavy as the games we've even been talking about this episode. But then when I saw this list, I was starting last year, I won't say starting last year, but I remember last year, Cartographers, I think, was nominated for perhaps Kennerspiel, and it was a roller right. I think, I don't want to get it wrong. God forbid I actually do any research before I get onto a microphone. but I just am like, what is going on with these nominations?
Well, yeah, but this is a conversation people have every year where they look, especially just like, wow, like what we consider a heavier game and what they consider a heavier game are very different things.
Yeah.
These awards are very important, especially in Europe, because they can kind of guarantee success for a lot of these games. If you win these awards, you will sell thousands more of units in Europe, maybe tens of thousands more. You get the sticker on the box,
Sticker's
and
huge.
so they're very important. So nominations for this year for the Kinderspiel des Jahres, which I think is supposed to be for like a little bit more complex game, not kids game. It is Fantasy Realms, Lost Ruins of Arnak, and Paleo.
Lost Ruins of Arnak, I think, is a solid choice for the category. Actually, here I am saying, like, what are these games? I'm like, actually, that was a very good choice. But I didn't love Lost Ruins of Arnak, but I enjoyed it. It made me unreasonably angry. I will be honest. I was very frustrated by the game, and yet I still recognize that it was a good game, if that makes sense. And that seems like a good, solid nomination for that category. And I actually don't know anything about Paleo or Fantasy Realms. I've heard the names.
Paleo, I've heard really good things about it. I think a number of people have been unhappy with the art in that because of the way it represents early man as kind of like, white people.
Oh, great.
So that might be part of it, but I don't really know that much. And then like, kind of like interestingly, Fantasy Realms was actually like released in the United States in 2017. So like these awards matter. Like it matters when it's released in Germany. So that's kind of like a weird quirk is like Fantasy Realms actually been out for a while. Not that I have.
And it's Aeon's. Wait, am I seeing here also that so in the jury recommends 4 other titles, which are these are sort of like the runners up.
Well, these are like this is a thing of note. So like we thought these were good too, but they're not in the running for the actual award now.
Yes.
So that was you want to read them?
Aeon's End. The original Aeon's End is on here. That came out like that came out forever ago. Barrage, I understand. Barrage has had such a strange distribution. Like I get that. Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion, and Rift Force are notable ones.
Yeah, by the way, I think there's some games there.
Yeah. By the way, was Great Western Trail nominated? Or I think Great Western Trail was a game of note. Or did it?
You're asking
actually no. Person. No, because Alexander, it doesn't matter. The point is, I think it's really cool that Barrage got on that list. And the reason why is because I would have thought that Barrage may have been a little too heavy.
Yeah.
But also, as I just mentioned, Barrage had such a terrible Kickstarter. I mean, so horrific, famously horrific, like just bad communication,
bad
parts that came, like it just was like, it was like you'd said, I have just kickstarted a pile of cardboard, an actual pile of cardboard. Things were coming in bent. People's boxes were broken. The bad communication, delays, and terrible components. And it's been a famous disaster. And the fact that despite such a huge PR, not meltdown, but disaster, that this game is still winding up getting this mention. And it's like I think it's around number 54 overall. And it had so many 1-star reviews from people who are so mad. And the fact that it's doing so well, despite all that, I think was a huge testament to just how good Barrage is.
Yeah, it's a top 20 game, certainly, for me. And yeah, that was like the first game we trotted out at an in-person game night this year was Barrage. When we split up, there were the more serious game, and that was like Barrage. Like that's definitely in our wheelhouse.
Hey, if you enjoyed that video, you very well might enjoy the other videos you now see being suggested to you on screen. Also, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could like, share, or subscribe to our Game Brain channel. Thanks so much.